Frank, do you want to call to
Yeah,
order?
yeah. Why don't we call it to order? And we have a brief agenda which might want to add to, but I thought that since we asked the fire chief to join us, that we might start off with the chief. And you folks mentioned the fact you want to talk to him, might have some questions. He might have some things he wants to tell us. Zach, is there anything you want up front to say, or you want to field some questions, or what?
I think if you hit me with some questions first, and then I might have some other comments.
Okay.
Really,
Well,
thanks for meeting with us,
Yes,
Chief
thank
Ward.
you.
Really
Thank you
appreciate
very
your time,
much.
and we'll try not to take up too much of it. But my questions were really around the dry hydrant system.
Yeah.
And I wasn't familiar with it before reading some of the background materials rolling on the Water Commission. So I think I understand how that all works now. And we're kind of focused on the town center for our, for a potential public water source and a system and a potential wastewater system in town center. That's kind of like our remit as this group. But so I guess what we're part of what I was curious about is just like cost benefit of putting in a pressurized water system, and looking at it from kind of all the angles. And one of those, of course, is fire suppression and protecting the infrastructure and the structures that are there. And right now, and just kind of understanding the risk that we face right now. So I guess my question is kind of like, have we been at risk in the past with those dry hydrants, kind of their water sources drying up, getting depleted? Have you ever felt like we're really playing with fire, so to speak, here, that we haven't implemented a more reliable water system for fire suppression in town center?
Yeah, so town center specifically, we have one main body of water that we use, which is off of Cemetery Lane.
Right.
That was the lowest. I've been at Sherborn for 6.5 years. I've been the chief for about 5.5 ish. And Cemetery Lane, the pond on Cemetery Lane was the lowest I've ever seen it. We're having substantial issues in other parts of the town, to the point where I think it's time. When I say time, like annual town meeting next year, if we can't get other funding, where we need to start adding additional cisterns, which are water tanks throughout the community.
Could you describe, to whatever
Yeah.
level you're able, what sorts of concerns?
Yeah, so town center is challenging, so I'll address the town center, and then I'll address the entire town, if that would be helpful.
Great.
So town center has by far the most dangerous buildings from a fire standpoint. The churches, public buildings, other public buildings, town hall, the library. Luckily, those have sprinklers.
What are your criteria for more or less dangerous? Just curious.
Size, construction, occupancy. So occupancy is number of people that could be in the building. A whole host of issues, I think one of the big ones for me also is the school. There's no sprinkler system in that building, and there isn't, because they didn't have a water supply for that. So we do have what's called a pipe system. So we have an intake hydrant on Cemetery Lane, and I can put a truck on that and pump. So if you go down North Main, you see there's a couple fire hydrants on North Main across from like Zion's Lane in that area, and Abbey Road on Village Way, and by Town Hall, right at the Rotary, or roundabout, I should say. We have to pump that for water to come out of it with the fire truck from Cemetery Lane. It works, but to achieve the fire flow needed for any of those buildings, fire flow is gallons per minute needed for a certain amount of fire in a particular building, we can't achieve that with that system that we have downtown right now. And that's a concern. A lot of our older, there's older homes throughout the town, but the largest concentration of them is definitely downtown, in that district. We also have the train that goes through the center of town. So if we had, we had a train fire a few years ago on Coolidge Street, but it was a trash car. And if we, in the downtown area or in any area, if we had an incident with the train, in which one of the tank cars, which containing chemicals, had a fire, there's no way we couldn't keep up with that initially. We do have water supply plans and practices, and we do training. We do a lot to prepare for these things, but the larger buildings downtown are of great concern.
Do you still have that truck with the about a mile of 5-inch hose on it?
Yeah, we do. The issue with this is that I'll give you an example. Frank, I've been 4 fires in the last 4 weeks in other towns. 3 of them in Millis and 1 of them in Ashland. It's been Millis had 3 fires in 3 weeks, which is very, very rare, even for Millis. They had a couple house fires, and then we had a fire in a multifamily. And every single one of them, those are just house fires, that they had multiple hydrants that they used for each one of those fires. A primary and a backup, that's something that we don't really have the luxury of in Sherborn, right? We get one that's typically pretty far away, and that's it. And then we have to rely on tanker trucks. A big issue with Sherborn, with calling mutual aid for what are called tanker trucks, or the trucks that have a lot of water on them that, which they can supply to a fire. Most other towns that don't have water are surrounded by other towns that don't have water. For instance, I started my career in Upton, and 55% of the town had water and 45% didn't have water. So we had tanker trucks for approximately the half of the town that did not have water. Every town around us, except for Milford, was in the same boat, if you will, and they had in Westboro, excuse me. So 5 out of the 7 towns had tanker trucks. We only have 1 neighboring town, which is Dover, that has tanker trucks. Our next closest ones are Norfolk, Medway, Hopkinton, Hopedale, and Upton. And you need 6 to sustain water flow at a significant fire in a home, not a big public building. You need way more than that. So those are some of the primary concerns.
Interesting. So
Yeah.
it's actually in this case not having, so even though the other neighbors also relied on tankers, having a lot of neighbors with tankers was a benefit in the other place. That's interesting.
Yeah, so we're like on an island, if you will. Dover is in a similar boat, and then, like I said, we got to go 2 towns away to get the rest of that help in.
Yeah. Interesting.
So yeah.
For types of flow or levels of flow, kind of the options are that people have been talking about in the Water Commission, other places, as you well know, I don't need to tell you, but a tower on top of Pine Hill or somewhere like that.
Yep.
Water flowing from this water sewer district possibly down to town. A well from what is Moore's well, is that what it's called, to town, probably also attached to the said Pine Hill Tower. What sort of flow would those provide for you? Would they be enough?
I have no idea. There's no way for me to tell without talking to whoever engineers it. You know,
Okay,
it's gonna depend on how they design the system. It's gonna depend on the size of the water mains.
okay.
There are a lot of factors in that. That's a great question. I unfortunately don't have an answer without more information. You know, if the tank's big enough and the water mains are big enough and the theoretically should work well
Are
enough.
there other towns you could point us to that have towers that are very useful, that work well or engineered well that you know of, or other towns that have different configurations aside from, just,
I don't really know how. So I know the town that I came from, Upton. We had a tower. We had 5 wells throughout the town. In some areas, we had boosting stations because they were up large inclines. One of which we had to turn the boosting station on in order for the hydrants in a neighborhood to work. We actually had a fire in the neighborhood once. But I don't really know enough about our neighboring towns and how their water comes from. I will tell you that, you know, we do use, when we go to other fires in other communities, we do use hydrants to assist those communities there. And you know, we've always been lucky. We've always had good water pressure, good flow. But I don't know how their systems are set up, if you will. You know, I don't know. I could
One
look into that
question
though.
I noticed that on Thoroughbred Drive, there's a dry hydrant right there, and that
Yeah.
pond has been getting smaller and smaller, it seems like, over the past year. Is that
Yeah, so
enough to make a good flow for you or not?
no. So I'll give you my top 3 concerns with the current ponds that we use. Number 1 is spywood. So the off of Bogastow Brook Road,
Yeah.
there's a pond there that's been dry at least half the year, the last 2 or 3 years. And you know, I was kind of hoping it was going to be an anomaly and come back. It hasn't really happened. You know, there's water in it now, but 6 months out of the year this year, it was dry basically. Thoroughbred's another one that's of concern. Stevens Lane's been getting low. Old Orchard is another one that's been getting dangerously low at the corner of Maple Street. Obviously, Farm Pond is on Lake Street. We have a hydrant on Lake Street from Farm Pond. That, you know, that'll never really be, hopefully never be an issue. Cemetery Lane was low. It still worked okay. There's a few others that were low, but those 3 are the big ones: Thoroughbred, Spywood, and Old Orchard. They all have some of our denser neighborhoods attached to them, if you will. They all protect some large homes. My biggest concern is Spywood, and I'll tell you why. Ivy Lane I think there's more homes, but it's downtown and we can get there quickly. We have 2 fire stations around the corner. Spywood's a ride for us to get to, and it's a 12-minute ride to get into that neighborhood in a fire truck. Leaving the station, us sitting in the fire truck right now and leaving, it's a 12-minute ride. So for some of the trucks to get down there, there's not a lot we can do about that. But I think it's important for the protection of that neighborhood that we develop a water source, which, like I said, will likely be a water tank, or what's called a cistern underground, probably 40,000 gallons.
How many of those do we have in town right now?
We have 5. So 2 are owned by the town. Those are Great Rock Road and Perry Street by the intersection of Prospect. There's one at the it escapes me if that's a gas line or their power lines. I think they're power lines. And then we have them in new developments. So we have one at Southfield Lane. We have one at 59 North Main Street, and we have one for the Cider Hill Lane neighborhood. That tank is actually on Forest Street, and it's gravity fed to 2 hydrants on Cider Hill Lane. As new developments come in, If they do, if the person builds 5 or more homes, they have to put a tank in, 40,000 gallons. The project that's proposed for Brush Hill Road, he's that developer's putting in 4 homes. It's below the threshold, but he still agreed to put a water tank in because that Brush Hill Road is one of our driest areas in town as far as water supply. There are no existing ponds that are of concern there, but I really want to get water in that area.
Where,
So the developers agreed to do that.
where is that cistern gonna go?
In the development, luckily it's a few hundred feet from the street. So it'll be accessible for us
Okay,
to
so you
use in
just-
that area.
Oh, you'd have someone run down with the pipe, with the hose or whatever and hook it up.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
so that is one benefit to that development going in, is that we'll get some water for our purposes in that area of town. So,
Interesting.
yeah, and I forgot, there is a cistern for the restaurant, the Fireside Tavern. We can't use it though, because that water feeds their sprinkler system in the building. So if that building was on fire, we'd use Cemetery Lane, which is, basically across the street. If we use the water for the cistern at Fireside, it would rob the water away from their sprinkler system. And there's a cistern for the library and town hall, their sprinkler systems, but those are specifically for their sprinkler systems. But
What you said about Fireside, does that mean it can never be used or only if that building is on fire?
we can't use it if that building's on fire.
Okay, but if something else down the street were, then you could.
We could. The issue is then it does leave that building unprotected. Because there would be no water for the sprinkler system to knock down a fire. And we actually had a small fire in that building last year on the 2nd floor. But
Are they
luckily
are they fed from rainwater? Are they fed from well water? What pulls them back up to
it's a great
capacity?
question. So of the 6, 4 are fed by wells and 2 are filled manually by us if we were to use them.
Oh,
So if
Okay.
we use Perry Street or Great Rock Road, and they actually used Great Rock Road. They had a barn fire at 55 Farm Road, I think a dozen or so years ago, and they used the entire 30,000 gallons at the corner of Great Rock and Farm. And when they do that, there's 2 options. We can hire a company to truck water in, or we can do it ourselves with our fire trucks, which can take a long time. So,
Yeah. So how far does a 40,000 gallon cistern get you in a fire? Like, will it put out a house fire?
It depends on the fire. So our basic attack line is what's called 1 3/4 hose line. The flow is 180 gallons per minute. And then we have a bigger attack line, which is a 2.5 inch attack line, which flows up to 300 gallons per minute. We also have portable guns. So for instance, we had a fire on South Main Street on Mother's Day last year where a garage, or really a barn, a 40 by 30 foot barn, was fully involved. About 8 feet away from a house. The house was starting to go. So we had to use really big water really quick. So we have what's called a portable deck gun. We put that on the ground with 3-inch hose that flowed 600 gallons a minute. But
Wow.
we only needed 1 minute of water to really darken that down until we could get more help there and get more water and completely extinguish the fire. But we saved the house doing that. So if you have a significant basement fire in a building, one of our large homes, or a fire in the attic, which can be the 2 hardest fires to get water on the seat of the fire, attics and basements. Using 2.5s, which is not a lot. That's 600 gallons a minute. So we can do the math, but we have flow.
Yeah, 70 minutes.
Yeah, but then depending on how far away the fire is from the hydrant, say it's 1,000 feet, with our 5-inch hose to fill that hose from the fire to the hydrant, that's 2,000
exactly.
gallons of water right there.
Wow.
About. So the whole thing is pretty logistically challenging.
One other question about the hydrant for town hall, for example, that's at the roundabout or yeah.
Yeah.
How long, when you start pumping at that hydrant and it's pulling from Cemetery Lane, like how long does it take for water to appear out of that hydrant?
Less than a minute. We keep it full of
Oh.
water.
Okay.
So we keep that system full of water. We flow it at least once a year. And when we do that, we're careful to keep it filled. We actually had to have a repair done on that pipe a year and a half ago or so, and we had to drain it. And it took 15 minutes to completely drain.
Wow.
If not more, if not longer. Yeah, so so again, I'm really in support of water downtown. And we're definitely looking to expand our water supply throughout the rest of the town, though, in the form of cisterns or other dry hydrants. There's really no other dry hydrants. We can add dry hydrants are the pipes that go into the ponds, like Cemetery Lane and those types of things. But we definitely need more cisterns. There's a Stowe, Mass has gotten state earmark funds to add cisterns. That's something we're looking into heavily. Even with that, there still may be a request at town meeting to add one or two next year.
Do you have just like a ballpark idea of how much a 40,000 gallon cistern costs?
About 100 to 120,000.
Okay.
Is there any sort of incentive if, say, someone's building a single family house, is there any sort of incentive to put one of those in for the benefit of the town?
Yeah, so it would benefit the town. It would benefit them on their home fire insurance rate.
But they would have to pay for it. There aren't like state funds or anything that could be tapped, or there's no rebate or no.
Unfortunately, no.
If we had running, town water, so to speak, downtown, what would be the difference in the fire insurance rates for the buildings down there? And very much, since we already have the dry hydrant or not?
It would be significant. So it depends on the building. So any there's an issue, and we're going to go through an ISO, what's called the Insurance Services Office re-rating in 2026, and they need hydrology reports for the ponds that we use.
So you hope it rains before then?
I hope it rains a lot before then, Frank. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see how our ponds are rated downtown. So obviously we don't have a lot of control over that. But the buildings within 1,000 feet of that pond are getting an improved rating, or any approved pond, if you will, are getting improved ratings. So if it was extended throughout, downtown, that the hydrants that were added would catch all the buildings. So
Okay.
that would be a benefit. Yeah.
Okay. So have you scoped out? I imagine your input will be asked for, like when they do the North Sherborn Water District, on where the hydrants will be.
Yeah. So when the basic drawings came out, I believe over a year ago now, there was a few hydrants on the map, and I did bring up, hey, we might need one more. We might need to move this one. And it was kind of early in the process.
Yeah.
So when that time comes, we'll certainly advocate for where the hydrants need to be and the right number.
What do you think the distance is from the last hydrant on the main road there to Douse's Corner? Like, say if you run a hose that length, how far is that?
It would be about 4/5 of a mile.
So you would have enough hose to reach Douse's Corner, but
We would,
but not much further.
not much further. But I don't know what the measurement is from there to, say, Everett Street, though. So another thing that we do as part of our water supply plan, which we're actually updating our plans for every single home in town right now. Every single home is going to basically virtually have its own plan as far as water supply, and sometime this year, but we also use hydrants from other towns already as part of our planning. So every town line, with the exception of Farm Road in Dover, although the river's right there, but every town line, there are hydrants at virtually every town line from other towns. So we do use those as needed.
You ever use the one that goes to the river bridge? You ever use that one?
Not for a fire.
No.
No, we've used, since I've been here, we used the Medfield's hydrant over the line 3 times for working fires. We've used a hydrant on Holliston twice. We've used a hydrant in Ashland. And we've used a hydrant on Bunker Lane in Natick, which is our Meadowbrook Road. It connects into Meadowbrook. We've used a hydrant on Bunker Lane, I think 4 times since I've been here for actual fires. One of them, which was the train. So we do use the hydrants in other towns when we need to.
Just curious, I don't know anything. Is there a cost for one town? I mean, I would imagine there'd be some sort of cost involved in using another town's hydrant, or how does that work?
No, there's no cost. So it's through our mutual aid agreements.
Okay.
So
That's
we're
good.
really lucky to have great neighbors, and there's no cost. when we
Yeah,
use them.
it really does seem like everyone pitches in. I see trucks from all sorts of towns going all over the place.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Any other questions anyone has? Jeremy, you're on there. You have any questions?
I guess I have a question now or in the future. Are those household plans available, or the plans for districts available to the public, or it's just more out of curiosity how the whole system even works? And
Yeah. So if a homeowner had wanted to see their plan, we could absolutely do that. The issue is the way in which it's going to be stored. So we have what's called a pre-plan software. We have computers in all the trucks, and there's a software in which if we get a call, the dispatcher in Holbrook there's the address into what's called the computer aided dispatch system. And on our iPhones and on those computers, we get alerts with the address and what the call is and any notes that they put in the background. And when we get the call, we can click on there's a button. It's called dashboard. We click on the dashboard. So if we're like they're on an ambulance call right now, they were on the way to this call, and it was actually on Farm Road, and they can pull up a photo of the person's home. They can pull up some basic floor plans and some other information, how many stories it has and how many bedrooms it has and what's the square footage and are there any hazards. So we can, number one, add hazards into these. For instance, we went to a medical last week, and we went to walk out on the person's deck, and it was in disrepair, so it was dangerous. So we, for that address, we put in, don't go on the deck in the rear of the house, because it's dangerous. But so we're doing the water supply planning through that. So if we're coming to your home, every home will have its individual plan and with several options. So if the hydrants are dry, the closest pressurized hydrant from another town will be identified as a backup source and et cetera. So
this is a database plan. It's not something you could just map out or anything.
There's no
like that.
Word document with everything in it, if you will. But so I think it'll be really good. We have a similar system now that's in a Word document, but it's grouped by neighborhood and address ranges. And then the measurements to each hydrant aren't exact. They're rounded to the rounded to the closest 1,000-foot mark. So it could be like 2,100 feet, but in our plan it'll show 3,000. It's a great plan, and they walked around the town with measuring sticks, and they put that together over several years. And it's worked really well. But now that we have this technology, we're just doing a big update.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very good.
Great.
Awesome. Wow.
Anything else?
Thank you, Chief Ward. That's great information. Appreciate your time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
anything I
yeah.
can do, let me know. I'd be happy to come back.
Thank you
So,
very much.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Thank you.
having
you
me.
so much.
Have a good
Thank
night.
you.
Good to see
You
you.
too.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, looking at our agenda, we can think about things we want to add. The other thing that was on the one that was posted was appointed person to the new commission. You know, I've given you information on that, and I hope you saw that we can't actually do that till after February 28th, because
Mhm.
we have to see all the applications. Because that's the word that the rules of the selectmen have to follow, and so we have to follow their rules too.
Mhm.
But we can still talk about it among ourselves and see who might want to do it.
Now,
And
are these for the other seats, or these are for the water commission seats? What?
the people who are applying would probably take any seat,
Okay, okay.
you know,
Mhm,
so
mhm.
it could be for us. So if we were to take one, then, you know, the town could take the others. If we take, you know, one of our own, then they plan to appoint two select persons. And so they would have two other people to appoint. So it was nice to see that some people have applied there. I mean, I
Mhm.
think, you know, between engineering and finance and so forth, there's a good round of people that have applied. But we do have the right to appoint one of our own here. And so I hope that one of you have been thinking about it, you know,
Mhm, mhm.
and we now have some more time because we're going to have to have a meeting after, you know, March 1st or afterwards to
Mhm.
be able to do this. It could be the middle of March, it could be after the selectmen or before them. They're planning to do it the 6th. But in talking to Marion Nutra, she thinks that the interim will last 2 to 3 years until they actually get pipes in the ground.
Mhm.
And then once the pipes are in the ground, then they'll be turned over to the,
Well, at least that's a good long time to think things out. I mean,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, that's also a very important planning time for all the
Yes,
people on that
yes.
interim, because, you know, a lot of financial decisions and so
Yeah.
forth will be made. And also those people will help to craft the final agreement between Natick and Framingham and Sherborn and what's going to happen.
Mhm.
Any of you have any thoughts on that so far? Or?
Well, I'm just looking at them now. Actually, I believe we've gotten 4 so far. Is that right? 4 or 5?
That's
Yeah,
what
4.
that's what it
Correct.
looks like.
And Diane will give us the others as they come
Yeah,
in.
and there will be more. I'm sure there will be
Yeah.
more.
Sure, sure. But this is interesting. I can see arguments for all of them. They all have
Mhm.
some sort of qualification. So this is no, this is great. This is great to see the people taking an interest in it and qualified people. So
Yeah,
I thought there might be no one, you know, but it was good to see that.
yeah. That's good.
So I don't know if you have any thoughts on them yourselves, but we can ruminate on that until the next time if you want.
Yes. I could say if there needs to be one from the water commission and the two of you do not want to do it, I could do it. I think, you know, but I think we probably should wait to see what all of the applications look like, because there may be stellar people
Right.
way more capable than I am.
Yeah, and you two in your applications for this committee have quite extensive backgrounds too, both of you, as far as skills and background and knowledge and so forth. Okay, so if you can look at some other things, did you do minutes, printed minutes for
yeah, I
the
sent
14th?
them to you guys. I think it was January 16th.
Yeah, it was
I sent-
early on because there had been
We
a
were getting a
request. Yeah.
little pressure. And
Oh, okay.
so
Although these will always be recorded, Taylor, from this point, from last point also, so that that pressure will never be on like it was
yeah,
last.
no, that's
So,
okay. That's right.
yeah.
I kind of appreciated it because it got me to do it faster
Yeah.
versus like I know I took an action item to write the annual summary, and I just didn't get to it, and I feel
No, no.
bad, but I just didn't get to it. And then Frank, I saw you took a first pass at it, which I appreciate. So
Yeah, thank
we'll get
you.
that done by the 17th. But yeah, the minutes should be in your inbox as of January 16th or afternoon.
Yeah.
Let me see here. Because when I searched for it, I was searching for Meredith. I forgot that Taylor was going to
Yeah,
do them this
Taylor,
time.
Taylor did. Now, Taylor, I don't know who is agreeing to do it this time. I can, whatever, it doesn't matter.
Well, would you mind if we alternate? I think I'll
That's
be in a
fine, that's
better
fine.
position to
I'm
do
just
it
gonna
next
go to
month.
I'm gonna go to the
I've-
video and I'm gonna do it that
Yeah,
way
yeah.
because
I have some notes,
I
so you
cannot
pick a
multitask in that way, yeah.
No, I'm
I-
not good at it either. And we can supplement each other's stuff. So if you take a
Yeah.
first pass, we'll all add in and
That
make
sounds
edits.
good, that sounds good.
And I can tell you that I would be terrible at that.
Well, I'm gonna be terrible at it too, but I'll get it done this time. So,
Okay,
that's
so
fair.
I've got those up. So if both of you have seen them, any discussion on the minutes or corrections or additions or? Wow, that's very thorough.
Thank you, sir.
No, I don't have any.
Okay, does someone want to move to approve?
I will
I
move to,
motion to approve the minutes.
I
Any
second the motion.
Great.
Okay, I, Meredith,
Aye.
Taylor.
Aye.
Okay, all right, so the minutes are accepted. Now, there are we also have, the year-end report, and we really haven't been
Right.
together that long. So
No,
the report, almost rather than a history, it might be more advantageous both for us and for the town to have a projection of where we think we might be going. Things that we want to study and work on for the year rather than necessarily of things we have done, since as a group we haven't been together that long. So have either of you taken a stab at
no,
that?
but definitely looking into fire suppression. And, water availability. Or such. Obviously, the, offering whatever advice into the North Sherborn Water District.
Right, because even those of us that are not on the committee, I think as we meet as a group, we still might want to give input on what we think should or should not be done.
Mhm.
Because, right now it's a very specific area that can't be expanded without like a town vote, but things do tend to morph once they get built, and someone says, well, I'm only 100 feet away, and the other one says I'm only a half a mile away, and so there will be pressures to go. The meeting that I attended, say, the ZBA meeting, when they were talking about
Earlier today.
yes, the 41 North Main Street.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and which looks like they didn't exactly get approved, and the thing that was holding up is the water. Okay, if they had water, they could probably be approved, and so it would be good to approve it to get water, but I'm sure there's a very large body of people that also would not want us to approve the water, because they don't want the additional building. So I'm sure there'll be different feelings on that. But I guess there's
and my
There-
guess
there-
is it's not the additional buildings, it's the septic system to support the additional, that's how it was on Greenwood, Washington. We were fine with whatever was going to be built to be, despite what people may
Yeah.
say, but what we did not want was a septic system that was
Yeah.
oversized for the lot, so.
yeah, so if both the fire side and their new development could have water,
Mhm,
then no one's going to be quite so concerned about where the poop floats,
mhm, mhm.
And the thing is, it looks like they're close enough. The regs have changed. They used to be like 100 feet. Now it's like 400 or 500 feet, next to another establishment. It depends on where the water flows and all of that. So both systems downtown would be nice, the water and the sewer, but if they all had water, there wouldn't be quite the concern as far as the septic flow is concerned.
Mhm.
So
Oh, I see what you're saying.
yeah,
Interesting.
Although still considering the interconnectedness of the groundwater here, there, even if the next door neighbors might have fewer concerns if they're getting public water, you know, it is failure of septics to do their job that is contributing to the PFAS and the nitrate and, you know, yada, yada, yada. And it is, I mean, it's a collective thing. It is not one thing. It's rarely a point source. There probably are, you know, a failed septic system is certainly not something you want, but it is just the overall input of everything. But anyways.
okay. All right, so that's just something to keep in mind, that if we were to move forward with water, there would be those that would say yay and those that would say nay because they don't want the development.
Mhm.
And I don't know if, you know, maybe as a future goal, we can still look at the water use restrictions that we talked about before, because I was looking up the dry hydrants and some of them have failed, you know, like some have really almost failed here in other towns. And so they have put in water restrictions to not just to help their flow, but also have their dry hydrant systems work. So that might be something we can continue to look at as far as, you know, a town report is concerned. And I noticed that some of you had talked about wanting to discuss the financial liability. Is there any thing?
No, I think that's carryover from when Roger was on the first call and he had sort of suggested we look at that. I do think that sort of ties into the fire suppression needs and stuff. So the to date, it sounds like they've made it work with what they have, but
Yeah.
as some of the water disappears from these ponds next to their dry hydrants and stuff, and just the risk increases. And for each fire you maybe can't put out, how much is that cost, you know? And
Yeah.
if it's town buildings too, it sounds like, you know, they have those lines primed all the way to town hall. So you know, it takes less than a minute to charge them up. No, that's a great thing, but it just, those are big buildings. I don't know how old they are, and yeah, it's a little concerning to think about, like, what is the town on the hook for as we get riskier and riskier with the fire risk.
Yeah.
eh,
And also the PFAS at the same time, is
That's
that
true.
I think we're going to spend more and more for that. And a lot of us have not tested our private wells for the PFAS. I mean, regular testing might be $100, $200, but I think to talk about PFAS, you're talking several hundred sometimes to test it. But sometimes people will test it for the nitrates, and if the nitrates aren't bad, then the PFAS is usually not bad, I
Mhm.
guess. So that's sort of an indicator where if the nitrates are high, you might want to test your PFAS. And try
Yeah, I
to,
mean, just for context, at Leland Farms here, we were doing PFAS every month, and it was $500 a month. We've gotten that down to a quarterly, so $500 a quarter for those tests. But as soon as we exceed, we'll be back to monthly again. But yeah, it's expensive to do PFAS. I was thinking, okay, that's going to be the thing that gets us to convert to a public water supply. But then Jeremy comes in and says, well, great news, I won these grants. And it's awesome that he won those grants. It's great, but it sort of kills the argument of like, oh, it's going to be very expensive for the town to do all this,
yeah.
because he won all that money. So it's actually
Yeah.
not as expensive.
Of course, that's only for the main buildings. We don't know what the individual homeowners are doing. You know, that's the thing.
Honestly, we just got like on the counter and it's probably like a $200 fancy Brita, and then, we
Yeah.
swap out, I
If,
mean,
if, if you told me the issue was like a section of town, I would say that's not my problem as a taxpayer. I'm like, they can
mhm,
buy the under the sink thing. Like, I maybe that's insensitive, but my dollars don't need to go to that. But when it becomes like a town building and a
yeah,
town
yeah, yeah,
problem, then
Yeah.
I'm like,
agreed,
okay, so
agreed,
those my tax dollars are going to that.
yes.
Then I have skin in the game. But
Right, and if it's Pine Hills Elementary, right,
oh yeah,
right,
of course,
yes,
yes.
yes,
And
agreed,
luckily Pine Hill, although it has some, is one of the lower counts of any place around,
that's good,
I guess. Where
But-
the fire station, on the other hand, is out of bounds because they used it in that firefighting foam years ago, I guess.
Yeah,
And some
yeah.
of it probably spilled on the ground.
For all the talk of PFAS, so if some homeowner does listen to this video, they should know they can get just like an automated water filter with a carbon filter. Just get it out, and they can have just fine water for like $500 at
Yeah.
most a year. You don't even have to get the plumber for the one we use. We just fill the tank every day, and then just spits out clean water for us.
yeah. No, I
Yeah.
think where it's going to be expensive is that when you have to treat for a public water supply,
Right,
and we have a couple
right.
PWSs in town, and
Yes.
that's where, and those are the things that all of town is chipping in for, because those
Yes.
are town public water supplies. So
Right.
that's where people are gonna be like, oh, wait a minute, my tax dollars have to pay for a many $100,000 system to go in there.
Yes,
Like,
yes,
at that point, does it make sense to spend, you know, a lot
Mm.
of money to put in
mhm,
Yeah.
the water system? But
right,
And of course, Natick had a water system and they had to remove it townwide. I guess they had a townwide problem with the
mhm,
PFAS and other things, where people coming getting their water from Quabbin, I guess is some of the best water in the country. Okay,
yeah,
of course that could change too, but right now supposedly the water coming from Quabbin is very very clean. My daughter lives in Hopkinton, and they have it in the town water coming
yeah,
to the house. So they have like in the kitchen sink, they have a reverse osmosis thing underneath the sink. And
mhm.
so anything they're going to cook with or drink or something, they use that one faucet,
right, yeah.
in which that must be similar to something
I,
to what you
I
have.
think people on this side of the country are unfamiliar. I grew up in Phoenix. If you grew up in Phoenix, off the top, you know that the water is terrible. And so everyone has like a water filter. You cannot survive there without, I mean, it's terrible water, just awful.
Oh, really?
Because of it's just hard water, so many, so many solubles, and it just terrible tasting. But here,
funny.
you can get it pretty good. But I think if it's surface waters, I'm pretty sure if the reservoirs are surface fed, then the PFAS is probably much more likely to be up there. And if it's groundwater, it's not, I could be wrong on that one, but that was my understanding.
Yeah, well, Quabbin has quite a bit of protected land
Depth,
around
yeah,
it,
yeah,
and in depth, yeah,
yeah.
quite a bit of protected ground.
So
Um,
that actually brings me to a goal I brought up a month ago, and that's around, I saw in some of the background materials, MWRA, or I forget, yeah, was interested in selling us water, and I'm just curious, like, what the cost of, and they get their water from Quabbin, which is clean, it's good.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, what I was thinking, what is the cost to bring in, to extend the North Sherborn Water and Sewer District to reach town center? And I know there's a bunch of zoning concerns related to
Mhm,
doing that, so
mhm,
that the cons may outweigh the pros in that
mhm.
scenario. But I'm just curious, instead of, because the numbers we've seen on putting in a water system and putting in a septic system in town for town center were around 4 million each
And
back
that was
in
a few
the
years
day.
ago, you said,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so when I ran the inflation calculator on that, those both came in over 5 million each. So we're talking 10 million to do both. Roughly. That was just those estimates. So, I mean, just comparatively, what would it look like to pipe in water to extend North Sherborn Water Sewer District down Coolidge into town center? I
the
don't know.
problem,
It's
yeah,
worth asking.
the problem with that is that right now, the size pipe they're gonna lay to go there. I mean, maybe they're gonna put in 8-inch pipe. And maybe if it's gonna go downtown, they might need 12-inch pipes, so you'd have to do all that work again, because right now we can think of it like a freebie. The water goes from the Framingham line to, where about the cliffs are on Coolidge Street. And then you have to go from there. But if you have to rerun a larger size pipe, that's one thing that people might want to look at. But if the developer for those apartment places are paying for it, they aren't going to want to pay for a 12-inch pipe if all they need is 8-inch to provide the things. So, but that's one thing to think about.
Mm-hmm.
you
No,
know?
that's a good point.
Yeah.
And then the other part is just and I'm not a cost benefit person. Like I don't know how to put together a formal cost benefit analysis, but when I was reading through a lot of the materials, it kind of seemed like it was a given that we would be putting in water and sewer. And I'm starting to feel like that's really not a given.
What was
Um,
it given? Say that
that
again.
that it was sort of assumed that yes, we are going this route. We're going to put in the water's going to come out of the end of Morris's Lane,
Yeah.
and the sewer is going to be a step system that goes out into Jameson Fields. And it was kind of like the next thing we need to do is do $100,000 test with pits and whatnot in Jameson, and then we need to do this. It was kind of like moving forward, and I get it. There was some momentum there, but at the same time, it was like maybe pump the brakes. Do we really want to do this? Does it make sense for the town? And I'm not I'm not sold yet that it's so obvious that that's what we need to do.
Okay. Right. I mean, there's some people that didn't want anything to do with this at all because they thought it would allow us to have smaller lot sizes.
Yeah, exactly. And if
Yeah.
there's already people
It-
pushing back on whatever it is, 41 North Main, and the idea of a bigger building there and stuff, and I've asked this in past meetings, is like, do people really want growth in the downtown center there?
Yeah.
And I think you were the one who said, Frank, well, probably half the people do and half the people don't, and it's not like a unanimous consent that,
Yeah. Well, and the interest in growth would be for, for things to do, for tax revenue, or what
Mhm.
would you, what would be the goals, I guess, of growth?
yeah, exactly. Those are the two main things people are always saying, oh, I wish Sherborn had this, I wish Sherborn had that. And then also my friends in Holliston make fun of the taxes that we pay.
Well,
They're like,
yeah,
we
I
should
mean,
get more businesses in town and stuff. I'm like,
no,
yeah,
no, I will share my little
yeah, because you
document.
did some interesting
Yeah, and this
analysis
was,
actually.
if anybody listens to this, these were total ballpark figures. They are not anything to rely on, but I just went to each of the surrounding towns using some website that aggregates property tax rates. And indeed, we are the highest of them all. And Dover is the lowest of them all. So these are the two most comparable towns. But the reason why Dover is so low compared to ours so high is that their average home value is high and ours is lower.
Right.
So per home, they're pretty much paying the same amount of taxes. They just have swishier homes for which they are paying the same amount of taxes. So
Yeah.
they leverage at a lower rate per,
Yeah.
per lot. But it ends up being the same amount. And then, yeah, and then when you looked at it like per town, again, this is my back of the envelope spreadsheet. And it was pretty accurate for Sherborn, a little shy. you know, we're comparable to Millis, comparable to Dover, like in
What's that
terms of
column you're looking at now? What does that indicate?
estimated town revenue from property taxes.
Oh, okay.
It's a little shy for Sherborn. I think Sherborn ended up being like closer to 35 or something. So again, this is back of the envelope,
Yeah.
but it was pretty close. So of the towns that have smaller, smaller numbers of households, we're really in the same range as here's Millis, Dover, Sherborn, and it's the big towns. It's the Framinghams, and the Natics that have the very big. I think it's Natick and Framingham, and I don't think by any means these are So Framingham, so it would be difficult to imagine how having a few more shops or a couple more restaurants are really going to put a dent in that in any way, shape, or form.
No, you'd have to have a shopping mall to
Yeah.
literally,
Yes.
But so the main thing I think would be the safety of the water that we do have downtown. And also,
Yes.
we are literally one train wreck away from having a problem. I mean, remember about a year and a half
Yeah.
ago, the train hit a pickup truck. I mean, what if they hit a tanker truck full
Yeah.
of gasoline? Then I think that's what happened over in Dover at one point in time. Is they had a spill from a gas station that polluted the downtown. That's why they had to go to some town water.
Oh, interesting.
In some sections, because they can pollute a very large area. All right. So are one or both of you going to take a stab at this town report, or?
It's due when in a couple weeks?
Yeah, it's due in the
17th.
like
Oh.
Monday. So yeah, I
Monday.
promised I would, and then I failed you. I will do it. I'll do it. I'll take what
Okay.
you wrote, Frank. I'm gonna
Yeah.
take what was written last year by Tara
Yeah.
and just riff on that, but it's not gonna be this elaborate.
Yeah, just project what we might do.
Okay,
You
I'll take
know?
a pass and I'll float it out to you within the next day or two, and then you guys just iterate on it, and then I think it goes to Jeannie, maybe. Guthrie, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Yeah, I thought that's what I saw.
and if she will be after you, if we're out after all of us, we don't
She
have.
should be. She should be. Yeah, no, I go out of town starting Friday, so I will
Yeah.
get it before.
Oh, thank you. If you
Hopefully
need to
in the next
pass it
day.
off onto somebody to finish it out, just go for it. But
No,
I will
I'll-
do the
yeah, I'll
minutes. I will
put
do the
in-
minute.
Yeah, I'll put in half an hour on it and then send it over to you guys. That's my
Okay.
commitment.
Okay, so why don't we look at a possible next meeting? We could do it before the 6th, and we could pick a person first, either ourselves or someone else, or we could wait till after the 6th, and which would probably be a better time for us, and then see what they did and go from there.
Yeah.
So is something the week of March 10th to 14th something that might work for someone, or
Yeah.
we can push it out further if we have to.
I can do that. I could do Tuesday the 11th. At this time, it seems like Tuesdays have been okay.
Yeah, Tuesdays have been good.
Would that work for
Tuesdays.
you guys? Tuesday the
Yep.
11th?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, 8 p.m. is good for you guys.
Yeah, if that works for you, I appreciate that. That's a post bedtime.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm in the same boat.
Yeah.
My son fell asleep just a little bit before.
And I didn't see any cats going across your keyboard either, so they must be.
We have no cats here. I don't know, Taylor, do you have cats? We
No, I have
cats.
a big dog, but if she ran across my keyboard, it would be a huge problem.
Yeah.
All right, March 11th at 8, Water Commission. Perfect.
Okay, and
Maybe in addition to the minutes, I will try to find out what I can about surrounding towns and what their fire suppression systems are like, and if there's any information about that, or maybe even do a search, maybe because the water tower seems like the most likely at the moment, especially if the North Sherborn Water Sewer District isn't even going to be, it's gonna be 2, 3 years still just to even
It would
get,
be,
Right.
yeah.
yeah. So it still seems like that's probably the way to go. And maybe even, how many town buildings are there? Because, there could be a centralized water filtration system, but on a per building basis, it seems like you could just add on to whatever,
Yeah, town center properties. There's Town of Sherburne Elderly Housing, so that's my neighbors, Woodhaven.
Mhm.
Town
And
Library.
you have a
Go
mixed
ahead.
system now, don't you? Don't your water systems connected now?
Not yet. Soon, hopefully. We've been talking about it for a couple years, but I'm hearing that in the next 6 months, hopefully, it'll
Because
be
there has
done.
to be like the thing to get rid of all the iron sediment, all the,
Manganese, I guess they have a
Yeah.
problem with too, yeah.
Yeah, iron and manganese. We have a softening system for with potassium chloride. I don't know what Woodhaven has. I assume it's something similar that softens the water. But anyway, yeah, so town center properties. I'm just looking at a list from something Roger sent us. Town library, town hall, police department, community center, fire station, Woodhaven. Yeah,
okay. What's
that's kind of
the title of that? And I'll write it down.
it was an Excel. Let's see here.
Okay,
The file was called district list 07.xls.
okay,
So it's an
07
Excel file from 2007. These are like, it shows appraised values of these buildings. I was curious to see like, what is all that stuff worth if it all went up in flames, Um,
It'd be cheaper
so
than the water system maybe, huh?
Well,
no,
yeah, I'll try to
definitely
find
not.
out what water filtration they have, because it just seems like maybe just adding on, an additional PFAS carbon filter onto whatever they have to be using,
Well,
you
that
know?
you may get a quick answer in that actually from Jeremy, because that's what they're hiring a consultant to look at right now at town hall is
Okay,
like a PFAS treatment system because the state is making them do it. And then
yeah,
that I think led to Jeremy winning 2 grants, one for Woodhaven and me, my Leland, and then one for the town.
Yeah, in
I
the
think.
town is the police station, the library, the town hall, and community center. So I guess all 4 buildings come out of the same well.
Okay, all right.
So that makes it more economical probably than having
But
4
yeah, I
different.
mean the numbers he won on those grants, if I remember correctly, they were both like $100,000. So
Yeah.
to
yeah,
me, I was like, whoa, that's more than I was thinking, because I was thinking it was going to be like an ion exchange or activated carbon filter or something,
mhm,
nothing crazy. And these numbers that he said were pretty high. So anyway, yeah, Meredith, you might have luck getting an answer
yeah.
from
I'll
him.
try to find out a little bit on that. So I'll do the, who else uses water towers, and without, if you don't have to do any new piping, and you just tack on the PFAS fancy Brita filter, and just have to swap out even if you can't regenerate the activated carbon, just swapping out one of the
Hmm.
big carbon filters has to be not horrible, because yeah, they went just like we have the paper ones that get the iron oxide out and all that, I
Like,
mean, just
What you,
normal maintenance.
yeah, what you have, Meredith, what's the maintenance on your filter that you use?
uh I just it's almost none, because I stocked up on the filters, like
Oh,
and then the one I have on our countertop, I mean, that would not work for a public building, but um maybe $100 swapping out of filters total per year. I mean,
per
it's
year?
got
Yeah.
3, no, it's got its own little internal reverse osmosis thing, and then it has a carbon filter, so the carbon filter takes out the organics, and then the rest of it, I think, just the soluble anion, whatever, goes through reverse osmosis mini, and then that gets dumped.
And that's just, you have it like on the kitchen sink, that's where you have
Just-
that?
Just on our kitchen counter. I didn't even pay for the plumber to get the under the sink thing. I mean, I went bare minimum. But it's, you know, it's how you just dump water in.
And have you tested it since you put the filter on to see if it's a difference, or?
No, I did not bother to get the water out of that thing tested. I'm sure it's fine, because it
Yeah.
was pretty fine before, and if it's getting
Yeah.
a little bit out, then it's gonna be even better fine. But
Yeah.
you know,
Okay.
Yeah, and what's interesting, you'll see in that file, Meredith, that XLS, the amount of water pulled from those town center
Right.
properties is
A
not
lot.
that much.
oh,
like
it's not
six-
that bad.
No, it's like 6,000 gallons per day is what they're allowed to. Well, that's actually their discharge limit, but I would think draw and discharge would be close. So, yeah, no, it's just that's like 20 houses kind of. This is
Okay.
the equivalent, you know.
Yeah, and for a house, if you just did like the kitchen sink, I mean, you don't have to purify what you flush the toilets with, you
No,
know?
or take a bath.
Yeah,
But I think what Jeremy had said last time was that at a public place where you know, you have to do it all, whether you want to or not. But I guess, you know, in our basements where we have our filters for the iron oxide and the other stuff.
yeah. And like the rules for like Dunkin' Donuts, they probably, no one sleeps there, so they probably don't have the same rules, but some people would have their coffee there every single day. You think that
Yeah.
that would make them have a certain degree of cleanliness or whatever, but okay. Anything else we have to discuss then today?
I don't think
I don't
so.
think so.
Let me just check the minutes from last time if I still have them up. Yeah, it just went away. No, I think that was it. I apologize for not having that year-end summary
geez.
written by
Well, I
today.
sort of dumped it on you anyway, so I had to start
That's
something.
right.
and then-
A
and
month
then
ago, I was feeling pretty cocky about how like my free time was looking, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
something happened, and
You-
it's not looking good.
you
It's
mean
not-
like a revolution?
yeah, like an inauguration, and then like
It
just
It got
a
a little
shitstorm.
busy. Let's
Oh my
use good
God.
language. Come on.
Excuse me for laughing, but it's just, you know, the news shows, it's just, sometimes something will come out, you know, once a week. Now it comes out every hour, something comes
Yeah,
out.
there's been a flow. There's been a flow.
Yes. Oh,
I guess one thing we had, Taylor, you know, I'm gonna try to dump this on you, but one thing we had mentioned last time is this is the time we would set a new chair
Mm.
and so on and so forth. You seem very good at it, Taylor.
Me?
You seem like you could
Frank-
definitely do a great job.
Frank's killing it.
no, I don't
I
know.
just dropped. I got one action item from last month, and I failed. So I don't know. This is a very nice compliment,
Well,
Meredith. But
Yeah,
you
Frank,
don't.
if
You
you
don't
are
wanna do it,
willing to
Meredith?
continue and you can delegate work, so it's not so bad, if you don't mind being like the face of the committee.
Yeah, it could be the one that they hang from the flagpole.
Well,
Yeah. Well, we can put that off and go as we are.
how
and see
about
what happens
this?
next.
There are some, you know, when like at universities, there is always like a shifting hat for the department, and the departments where there's no one who's too narcissistic, and maybe like
Yeah.
we could have a head of the day, a chair of the
Yeah.
day, except I guess it doesn't work that way on the website.
Well,
But we can
one
all be
thing
co-chairs.
for the 11th is that, you know, we should once again have things for the agenda, because the agenda that got posted this time was, I really fell down on it and didn't have a very fancy agenda at all. In fact, I was very lucky. Jackie really did us a favor, because you couldn't do Thursday and Zach couldn't do Thursday, and so it had to be 48 hours. And so at 7:30 Friday night, I called Jackie at home and she, she posted it for me. So that's why we were
Wow.
able to have our meeting.
That's good.
So it was a very abbreviated agenda. So as the days go on towards the 11th is, you know, certainly back by the 6th or 7th, but maybe by the March 6th, you could have your agenda items to me so I don't get caught on the posting again.
Okay.
Yeah, speaking of March 6th, maybe you guys mentioned this earlier, but we have town caucus that night. Meredith, you and I have to be there. And
I have it written down. That's right.
yeah, and I need someone to nominate me, and I meant to ask you, could you just nominate me?
I could try to, I got someone who will nominate me, and I will learn how to nominate you from her, because she nominated my husband, who did not win Board of Health, but that ended up being kind of a blessing.
A blessing, okay. Yeah, was it like right before COVID or something? That would have been a mess.
They've
No,
had a
it
few
was-
things bounce around over there too. I think they've had a few personnel changes, right? Board of Health, right?
Oh, yeah, this was the last time around when,
Okay.
Okay.
yeah, it was-
Well, yeah, I think we have to be there in person, Meredith,
yes,
at
yes.
8
Actually,
o'clock on the 6th.
Or at
actually-
least someone has to nominate us in person.
Yeah, you don't have to
You
be there
have
in
to be
person,
there.
but it's always good because they have you stand up and see that you're, a real person.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
it's good to be
And I
there.
heard it was quite a show I mean, my husband was there last time even, and he actually won the caucus for for his thing. And then I think, but no one's complaining in our household. But that Rick Novak was doing a great job of, running the caucus and everything. So
Okay, but so I'll try and be there the 6th too to vote for you both.
Thanks for me.
And so, but by that date, if you could have any agenda items,
okay.
Yeah.
By the 6th. Okay.
so I can get it posted. In fact, yeah, by then, yeah, I could do it Friday morning, I guess.
Okay.
All right.
All righty.
Anything else? Okay, someone want to move, we adjourn?
I will move.
I
to
motion
adjourn.
to adjourn.
Second?
I second.
Okay, all right, everyone. Aye,
All in
aye.
favor?
Aye.
Good night, guys.
Good night.
Aye.
Good night, all.
Goodbye.
Thank you both. Yeah,
Thank you. It's good
Yeah.
seeing you.
take
Bye.
care. Bye now.